Good afternoon, you ruddy lovely people, and happy Good Friday and Easter weekend. If you are celebrating, I hope that you will have a smashing time with those closest to you. We are here today to debrief last night's game, and what a game it was. Eintracht Frankfurt 0, Tottenham Hotspur 1, 2-1 on aggregate to the mighty Spurs. Tottenham are through to the semi-finals of the Europa League. A fantastic performance last night from the boys. The manager got it tactically bang on. We showed everything last night that I've been calling for the last few months. Solid defensively, We showed passion, we showed desire, grit, energy. It's everything I've wanted to see in a Spurs performance. We managed the game extremely well, kept the ball in the first half and quietened down the crowd. Second half, sat here once we had that goal and counter-attacked, and we looked dangerous quite a few times on the break. And defensively, apart from the Christensen opportunities, we didn't really let them have anything. I can't remember Vicario making any unreal saves or Frankfurt missing any sitters. They had a few good chances, but you're going to get that. It's the second leg where they're about to go out. So I thought we did a very, very solid job defensively. I really, really do. The manager deserves his flowers. You guys who watch this channel, you'll know I'm not the biggest fan of this guy. I think the last few months, to be honest, the whole of this season, he's been a bit of a disgrace on the sidelines, in all honesty. But last night, he got absolutely everything spot on. I questioned the lineup. Porro and Udogie both stepped up. I wanted to see Spence in there, but then maybe it would have been slightly better with Spence, but it could have been slightly worse. He went with Porro and Udogie and both played absolutely brilliantly last night. Then Maddison, as I say, as a precautionary, has to come off. He decided to bring on Dejan Kulusevski. I think that was the right choice. It would have been silly to leave on Maddison and risk further injury. Tell's about to take the penalty. He tells Dominic Solanke to take it, which I think is fantastic. He knows that's going to boost his confidence. He knows Solanke needs that goal that Tell's leaving in a few months. So Solanke scores that pen. That was the right decision. Second half, he got the tactics bang on. We sat in a little bit, counter-attacked them, then switched to a back five late on, bringing on Kevin Danso, protecting the lead. He managed the game really well. There were no inverted fullbacks or any of that cobblers last night. We sat in a little bit deeper. We defended as a unit, and we looked hard to break down. And a lot of that is down to the manager's tactics last night. So for those 90 minutes alone, fair play to the manager. He got it absolutely spot on, and he deserves all the flowers and praise that he can possibly get. We were fantastic. We were absolutely fantastic. I don't think many people, including myself, expected us to go to Germany, to the VAD station, or as it's called now, the Deutsche Bank Arena, and pull off a win, because we know that Tottenham as a football club, especially with the team we've got now, tend to crumble like a chocolate digestive in a milky tea when the pressure is on. When the lights are shining down and the crowd's against us and loud and hostile, we normally can't deal with it. We normally cannot deal with it, which is why I did not expect much from last night's game. But we quietened the crowd down with our possession in the first half. We defended very well in the second half, barely allowed them a sniff. And I just think we controlled the game and managed it so well. It was what you'd call a few years ago a perfect away performance. When your home games convincingly win your away games by any means necessary and really dig in and show some fight. And we did that yesterday. The crowd against us, as I say, they made it hostile, they made it difficult, but the boys showed real passion and we showed real bottle, to be honest. We really, really did. I thought there were some really, really good performances in there. I thought Udogie, yet again, was fantastic. When he's out wide, he's so much better. It's why I've been calling for these wing-backs to be played out wide for months, because it's what they did previously. It's what Udogie did at Udinese, but for some reason, for so long, this manager's been inverting him. The last two Europa League legs against Frankfurt, we've had him out wide, maybe as well because Son's not in his way, and he's been thriving. He's been taking on his man in wide areas. He's been whipping in good crosses, getting pullbacks in, Whereas for months and months before, he looked pretty average defensively and just played sideways passes when he was going forward. I think Udogie looked absolutely brilliant yesterday. I'm glad the manager made the choice to not invert him. And I think it's paid off in these two legs. I think over the two legs, he's been the player of the tie, in all honesty. And we know there's that player in there. When he was coming through Udinese, we saw that. At the beginning of last season, we saw that. So it's great to see Udogie really reaching the levels he hasn't in quite a few months. Romero and Van de Ven, I thought both were rock solid. I've been a massive critic, especially of Romero recently. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. A real defensive rock in there. That's the Romero that we've seen when watching Argentina when they're defending 1-0 leads. Commanding his box, heading everything that comes near him away. He was brilliant last night. He was absolutely brilliant. Does it mean I suddenly want to keep him, and if an offer did come in, I'm going to turn it down? No. As I've said the last few months, if a good offer comes in for Romero, I'd take it, because I believe you could spend that money on a better player who performed better for Spurs. I don't care what he does for international duty, a player who would perform better for Spurs. But last night alone, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And Mickey van der Ven, his recovery pace and recovery runs were brilliant. I remember it was a ball up to Ekitike in the first half, and Van der Ven's recovery pace and running back, it really did save us. And he put in a fantastic challenge, and it goes into Vicario's arms. And countless times. I mean, Romero cleared his lines quite a few times, but it felt like every cross that was put in the box was headed away by Mickey van der Ven. I mean, it's great to have him back in the team. It's great to have him back at full fitness. Let's hope he doesn't get injured, because those hamstrings have been turning into cheese strings over the last few months. But Mickey van der Ven at his best. That guy's like some sort of superhero. He may as well have been injected with some compound V, A-Train. Absolutely quality performance from Mickey van der Ven. Pedro Porro, I don't think he was as good as Udogie on the left, but I still think he was very good. Whipped in some good crosses going forward. And defensively, it was a lot better from Porro. I always feel with Porro, those one-on-ones where he gives the defender space, but he dealt with him quite a few times, and they didn't have a lot of threat from the wide areas, Frankfurt. And that's down to the wing-backs, and Porro obviously played his part. The midfield, I thought Maddison got better as the game went on. First off, I don't think he did anything special. I think he needed to get himself more in the game. I think he realised that in the second half. Maddison wasn't playing in the second half. What am I talking about? Talking about Bergvall. Bergvall, I think, needs to get himself more in the game. Second half, though, he did. I thought Bergvall's second half performance was just as good as his second half performance in the first leg. Dejan Kulusevski, when he came on for Maddison, I thought, drove forward really well. He brought that strength that we sort of needed in that number 10 position in an away game like this one. Maddison, from what we saw of him, I do think he needs to get himself more involved in the game. I don't think he was necessarily bad, though, and got us the penalty with a fantastic run from a good ball from Christian Romero. Bentancur, nothing too special from Bentancur. He did the basics really well, and I'll say that about the wingers as well. Brennan Johnson came back, did his defensive work solid. Did he score a banger? Did he make any ridiculous runs? Did he do anything special going forward, which we probably would have wanted? No, but he did the basics really well. He showed desire and he showed passion. And sometimes when you've got the quality that we have on the pitch, that's all you need. That is all you need. And yesterday, Johnson, Tell, getting back doing the defensive work, it was good to see. And Bentancur was another one. Did the basics really well. Nothing exceptional, but he didn't need to. It was a very solid performance as a midfielder in an away game like this one. So I was very impressed. Dominic Solanke. Great to see him on the score sheet. Really glad Ange decided to tell him to take the penalty to boost his confidence. Sort of reminds me of when, and I don't like giving this Lego head praise, but you have to sometimes, when Arteta at the beginning of last season, I know Havertz's fallen off now, but at the beginning of last season he was getting bantered left, right and centre. He was a bit of a joke. He tells Havertz to take a penalty in a 4-0 win against Bournemouth. He does. After that, he goes on a goal-scoring streak and becomes, for a period of time, for a few months, one of the best attackers in the Premier League. I'm not saying that will happen with Solanke. I'm just saying that penalty could really give him a boost of confidence. And even if we went through yesterday thanks to a Tell penalty, would have he got that? Probably not, because his performance wasn't anything special. We held it up better than he has done the last few months. I'm thinking of that move where Kulusevski gets the shot off eventually. But that penalty, I really hope boosts his confidence. His first goal since January, and fair play to him for getting it. From a Frankfurt perspective, they didn't pose as much threat as they did in the away game, but I do think a lot of that is down to our tactics. We've set up the exact same way pretty much heading into every game, so why would have they expected anything different in this game? When they travelled to our ground, we pressed them high, we inverted the fullbacks, and they caught us out on the counter-attack. And although they were at home, they were probably, I imagine, expecting the same thing yesterday, and then we're almost waiting for that press from Spurs, and it's not coming because we're sat in a little bit. They looked a little bit devoid of ideas thanks to our tactics. Obviously, they could have done better, and they had a couple of chances, the Christensen ones. I wouldn't say they're sitters. I wouldn't say we're coming away from the game saying we're lucky to go through, because I think we were the better team and we executed our game plan better. But they were good opportunities, and maybe if those go in the back of the onion bag, it's a different game. But I don't think they posed too much threat, and I think a lot of that was down to how well we defended. And And the tactics from Ange, yeah, Frankfurt could have done better, but give us the credit as well for not allowing ourselves to be broken down like we have done so many times the last few months. Bodo Glimt in the semi-final. What a mad night of Europa League action as well. I flicked over from Spurs and it was 3-2 when I flicked over at the end of the game because I didn't want to hear Ange's interview or see any of the pundits really talk about Spurs. Came on here, did my match reaction, went back downstairs, and it was 3-2 to Olympic Lyon, and then they make it 4-2, Lacazette with a penalty, and you think even down to 10, this is another Man United crumbling. It's quite funny. I ended up cheering for Man United. I ended up cheering that Maguire goal because as a football fan, you can't help but love it. The European drama. We got it on Tuesday with Aston Villa, and to an even bigger extent last night. I mean, they scored that Fernandes penalty. You're hearing Rio and Robbie Savage get excited on commentary, mainly with a fantastic finish. And then Maguire's goal. I mean, fans on the pitch, the place just erupted. Special European night. Look, is the quality as good in the Europa League as the Champions League? No. But is the drama as good? You can't watch the games last night and tell me it isn't. Bodo Glimt as well. What I was about to get on to. Lazio, it looked all pretty comfortable for them from what I was reading during the game. Took the lead quite early. Late on though, Bodo Glimt defending for their lives. Lazio get the second. They score the third in the 109th minute, and you're thinking, okay, yeah, cool. Or it's not the 109th minute. I think it was the 99th minute. It was the 109th minute or something like that where Bodo Glimt pull one back. But Lazio score the third, and you're thinking, yeah, Lazio through. Okay, we've got them in the semis, and then Bodo Glimt get a goal. They take it to pens. You're still thinking Lazio win on pens because it's in Lazio, and then Bodo Glimt go through. Look, I'm not being funny, right? They beat Lazio, so they're obviously good opposition. They tactically outclassed Ange when he was at Celtic a few years ago. They've beaten teams like Roma 6-1 under Jose Mourinho. I mean, when does a Jose Mourinho team concede 6 goals? They did against Bodo Glimt a few years ago. So they're no mugs. But have they been in this position before? Not that I recall. How are they going to deal with the pressure of being in a semi-final? Because it's a different ballgame now. You've had that brilliant night against Lazio. Now, a little bit of expectations there, which wasn't beforehand. People are going to be keeping an eye on you, looking at your previous results, looking at how you're getting on in your domestic games because you pulled off that brilliant result. How are they going to deal with the pressure? Could go either way. They could thrive under it, or they could crumble under it. And taking on us, I do think Bodo Glimt is a much more winnable tie than Eintracht Frankfurt. I really, really do. We've got the away game second, but look, I'm not as fearful of that as I was heading into the Frankfurt game. Because we showed last night that we can deal with the pressure of an away game in the Europa League this season. So, I really, really think we've got the beating of Bodo Glimt. Yeah, they pulled off an unreal result against Lazio, but I can barely name any of their players. We've got the beating of them. We're a better side than them. Beat Bodo Glimt. Who have we got in the final? Bilbao or Manchester United? I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but it's there for the taking, man. In what's been a crap season, an underwhelming, pathetic and rubbish season, we can end up pulling off one of the biggest achievements this club's had in 30, 40 years. Our first European trophy since 1984, our first trophy since 2007, the first trophy I'll be able to actually enjoy and live as a Spurs fan. Please, Tottenham. It's actually there for the taking. It's there for the taking. This season's been so bad, but we grind out a result against Frankfurt. We get ourselves through. We've got Bodo Glimt in the semi-finals, and then we play the winner of Bilbao versus Manchester United. We've played Man United twice in the Premier League, in the Cup as well. We've shown that we've got the better of them. We've shown that despite how bad we've been, we are a better team than them. We are a better team than them. Look, could European pedigree and history and pressure come into it in a final against them? Potentially, but 3 wins against them, that's got to affect them a little bit mentally as well if we do get there. Look, I'm getting ahead of myself already. I'm talking about if Spurs can win a final against Man United. Man United have still got a tough task against Bilbao, and the final's in Bilbao, to be fair. And we've got Bodo Glimt. We can't underestimate them. We've got to take these games seriously, but I'm just glad to be able to enjoy Spurs again. This season has felt so emotionless for so long. Spurs have been scoring goals, conceding them, and I've barely moved. Whereas last night I'm up on my feet, I'm nervous towards the end, I'm celebrating the goal, Feeling emotional about the club that I love, which is the way that it should be. We've got a real chance of winning our first European trophy in many decades and our first trophy since 2007. And Could this crap season, this pathetic domestic season, end with Tottenham Hotspur lifting a European trophy? And Ange Postecoglou, the manager that me and many of you have criticised non-stop, leading us to European glory and silverware. We can dream. We can dream now. Semi-finals to look forward to. We've got Forest on Monday. Who gives a monkeys about that, man? I don't care about the Premier League anymore. Premier League don't matter. Premier League does not matter. All our eggs in that Europa League basket. I may as well not watch the Premier League games because I genuinely do not care what happens in them. The Europa League, we've got a real chance of winning it. Spurs, don't let this one slip. Guys, have a smashing Easter weekend. Have a smashing WrestleMania weekend as well. If you are interested like I am, take care of yourselves. All the best. Have a good one. And as always, come on, you Spurs.